John Rawlings Rees, wrote, "Wars have, I suppose, always been wasteful and destructive, yet at the same time, out of the peculiar conditions created by conflict and national effort, there seem to have come some things that are of value." War experience is a valuable testing ground for most of us, and certainly this is true for psychiatrists. Under horrific conditions, one perhaps discovers more easily and more rapidly than under any other situational stress what the personality and quality of a man are.
Mass media is capable of reaching large numbers of people with programmed or controlled messages, which is key to the creation of controlled environments for brainwashing purposes. As Tavistock's researches showed, it was important that the victims of mass brainwashing not be aware that their environment was being controlled. That is why a vast number of sources for information exist, whose messages could be varied slightly, so as to mask the sense of external control. Where possible, the messages should be offered and reinforced through entertainments, which could be consumed without apparent coercion, and with the victim perceiving himself as making a choice between various options and outlets.
These concepts were developed by Adolf Hitler and coerced out of Rudolf Hess by John Rawlings Rees and his associates at the Tavistock Institute, to be put into use against humanity by the New World Order. Allowing ourselves to be influenced by the subtle but powerful illusions presented by television leads to a kind of mass madness that can have rather frightening implications for the future of the nation. We will have begun to see things that aren't there, giving someone else the power to make up our illusions for us. The prospect is frightening, and given our cultural heritage, we should know better. Welcome to the New World Order.
Hypocritical, your rhymes are despicable. Smoking weed's critical and health is low. Inspiration dedicated, the mention go for gold. With these lyric beats, the rhyme so cold. Keep my name out your mouth, you demented hope. I was resurrected from the dead to put on the show. Annihilating anyone who says they're my foe. Distributing to the young, dumb, and to the old. Making bitches go broke, cause they love my dope. See crack.
Tavistock Institute has developed such power in the U.S. that no one achieves prominence in any field unless he has been trained in behavioral science at Tavistock or one of its subsidiaries. Henry Kissinger, whose meteoric rise to power is otherwise inexplicable, was a German refugee and student of Sir John Rawlings Rees. Dr. Peter Bourne, a Tavistock Institute psychologist, picked Jimmy Carter for President of the U.S. solely because Carter had undergone an intensive brainwashing program administered by Admiral Hyman Rickover at Annapolis.
Tavistock Institute originated the mass civilian bombing raids carried out by Roosevelt and Churchill, purely as a clinical experiment in mass terror, keeping records of the results as they watched the guinea pigs reacting under controlled laboratory conditions. All Tavistock techniques have a single goal: to break down the psychological strength of the individual and render him helpless to oppose the dictators of the New World Order. In a common-purpose brainwashing group, a number of individuals from varying backgrounds and personalities are manipulated by a group leader to form a consensus of opinion, achieving a new group identity. The key to the process is the creation of a controlled environment, in which stress is introduced, sometimes called dissonance, to crack an individual's belief structure. Using the peer pressure of other group members, the individual is cracked, and a new personality emerges with new values. The degrading experience causes the person to deny that any change has taken place. In that way, an individual is brainwashed without the victim knowing what has taken place. A single common denominator identifies the common Tavistock strategy, the use of drugs. The infamous MK-Ultra program of the CIA, in which unsuspecting CIA officials were given LSD, and their reaction studied, like guinea pigs, resulted in several deaths. The US government had to pay millions in damages to the families of the victims, but the culprits were never indicted. The program originated when Sandoz AG, a Swiss drug firm, owned by S.G. Warburg Company of London, developed lysergic acid. Roosevelt's advisor, James Paul Warburg, son of Paul Warburg who wrote the Federal Reserve Act, and nephew of Max Warburg who had financed Hitler, set up the Institute for Policy Studies, to promote the drug. The result was the LSD counterculture of the 1960s, the Student Revolution, which was financed by $25 million from the CIA.
Any technique which helps to break down the family unit, and family principles of religion, honor, patriotism and sexual behavior, is used by the Tavistock scientists as weapons of crowd control. The methods of Freudian psychotherapy induce permanent mental illness in those who undergo this treatment by destabilizing their character. The victim is then advised to establish new rituals of personal interaction, that is, to indulge in brief sexual encounters, which actually set the participants adrift, with no stable personal relationships in their lives, destroying their ability to establish or maintain a family. Dysfunction, 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 dysfunction.
Today the Tavistock Institute operates a $6 billion a year network of foundations in the U.S. All of it funded by U.S. taxpayers' money. 10 major institutions are under its direct control, with 400 subsidiaries, and 3,000 other study groups and think tanks which originate many types of programs to increase the control of the New World Order over the American people. It carries on program surveillance and extensive intelligence operations for the CIA. It is the largest institution in the world promoting mind control and the behavioral sciences. It is also the organization behind Common Purpose.
Imagine that a stranger broke into your home, robbing it, leaving it in ruins, and then kidnaps your children to work as servants within his home. This stranger, fearing an eventual retribution from these kidnapped children, will find it necessary to implement systems for ensuring that these children remain loyal. The stranger may do so by routinely showing the children pictures of their ruined former home, while falsely retelling the details of the event, that he merely rescued them from the ruins, and that their parents didn't want them